The first
Your
time I saw
defiance
her,
is amusing,
I thought the
warrior.
galaxy
Your tricks
had
won't
gone
work
mad.
on me.
I had been
We
on
shall
routine
see.
patrol in the
Kneel
Saphira
before me.
Expanse,
I will
an
not yield.
uncharted
Then you
region
will
at the
break.
edge of known space, when my ship's sensors picked up a vessel unlike anything documented in Federation records. It wasn't a sleek human craft. Its hull was organic, shimmering with a faint iridescence, as if it were alive. The ship hovered silently in orbit around a barren, violet-tinted planet. And above the hull, illuminated by the eerie auroras of the atmosphere, floated the figure that would forever change my life. She descended from the vessel like a predator unbound by gravity itself, her form regal and terrifying. She was taller than any humanoid I had seen, with scales glinting like molten silver across her skin and eyes that burned with intelligence and authority. I quickly realized I was in the presence of a queen, the alien queen, the one our scouts had whispered about but none had ever encountered directly. "Human," she said, her voice resonating in my mind rather than through sound. It was not threatening, not yet, but it carried the weight of millennia. "Why are you here? You know your kind is not welcome in my territory." I swallowed hard, gripping my sidearm. My fingers shook. My instincts screamed to retreat, to flee, to call for backup. Yet, when I looked into her eyes, I found myself unable to move, yet unwilling to retreat. "I came to explore," I said, my voice surprisingly steady, "and maybe to understand." She cocked her head, the scales along her jaw shimmering with a soft, alien glow. Most humans would cower. Some would scream. Others would fire without thought. "Why aren't you afraid?" The question stopped me cold. I had never been asked anything like it, least of all by a creature whose kind had decimated entire fleets in centuries past. I considered lying, but the truth burned too brightly to conceal. "I don't know," I admitted. "I guess I've always believed fear is a choice." Her eyes narrowed. The air around us, well, the psychic equivalent of air, tensed. For a moment, I thought she might incinerate me with her thoughts. Instead, she tilted her head, and the question returned in a tone that could have shattered mountains if it were spoken aloud. "Explain." The beginning of understanding. I had grown up on the fringe colonies, in the small mining outpost of Draxel Prime. Life there was hard, unforgiving, and dangerous, but it taught me one lesson early. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's acting despite it. That thought, I realized, shaped every decision I had made up to this moment. Somehow, the alien queen, the sovereign of a species I had always imagined as merciless and omnipotent, wanted to know why a human could stand before her without trembling. "I grew up at a place where the stars themselves could kill you," I said, gesturing vaguely toward the expanse. "Where sandstorms could shred your lungs, where miners disappeared overnight and nobody came looking. Fear was constant, but we survived. And surviving taught me that fear doesn't always have to rule you." For a heartbeat, I thought she would dismiss me as foolish. Instead, she stepped closer, her massive presence folding the space around me like a tidal wave. "Survival, yes," she mused. "But courage? That is rare, even among my own people. Humans, you may be more remarkable than your history suggests." Her gaze penetrated my mind, reading memories, examining motives, probing deeper than any human could imagine. I had no secrets she could not uncover, yet her judgment felt fair, almost reverent. And then, without warning, she laughed. It wasn't a simple sound. It was a cascade of resonances that echoed through the psychic field of the planet, a sound that could have crushed civilizations if wielded as a weapon. Yet somehow it was delighted. "You intrigue me, human," she admitted, stepping back. "Very few of my kind have ever been curious rather than hostile when encountering humans. Most would have ended your life before asking questions. I swallowed again, unsure whether to feel honored or terrified. I've never met anyone like you, I said honestly. But maybe curiosity is why we're still alive. Maybe that's what makes humans different. For reasons I could not understand, she considered this seriously. Then, in a gesture that was both terrifying and regal, she extended a clawed hand toward me.
Come, she said.
You will see my world. Not as a subject, not as a trespasser, but as a guest. Do not take this honor lightly. The alien world. The inside of her ship was unlike anything I had imagined. The corridors pulsed with bioluminescent veins, walls that seemed to breathe with life, and floors that shifted slightly under my weight. The air, or what passed for air, was thick with a fragrance that made my lungs tingle with energy. Everywhere I looked, creatures moved, each more alien than the last, yet all seemed to defer to her authority. She moved among them with effortless command, a queen among her subjects. As we walked, she spoke, not verbally but directly into my mind. I have ruled for centuries, human. My people have known war, famine, and betrayal. They know fear. They obey out of terror, or loyalty born of necessity. And yet here you are, standing without trembling. I nodded. Fear is natural, but I choose to face it. It doesn't control me. She paused near a massive chamber, its walls alive with a strange, flowing energy. And what is it that you seek, human? You came to my domain uninvited. Most would seek knowledge or resources or glory. You seem different. I hesitated, thinking of Earth, of my life, of the families who had never ventured beyond the colonies. I suppose I'm seeking understanding and connection. We've looked up at the stars for millennia, wondering if anyone else is out there. Meeting you, it feels like more than discovery. It feels like meeting something I was meant to meet. Her eyes, silver and infinite, studied me. For a long time she said nothing, and then softly, You speak of purpose, and yet your kind is so fragile. Why do you not fear the power I wield? Why do you not fear the end I could bring with a thought? I've always believed that respect is stronger than fear, I said. If you respect life, even a life unlike your own, then you don't need to fear it. And if you don't fear it, maybe you can see it for what it is, not just a threat.
The test.
She seemed to consider this for a long time. Then she motioned toward a massive chamber beyond the hall. It was circular, with a pit in the center filled with swirling violet plasma. From the pit, alien beasts emerged, enormous predators designed to test even her kind. She watched me carefully, her mind probing, anticipating my reaction. Walk through, she commanded. Prove that you are as you claim. I glanced at the swirling plasma, at the creatures circling with razor claws and eyes that gleamed like stars. My heart raced, every instinct screaming to flee. But I looked at her, the queen, the most feared being in the quadrant, and I understood what was at stake.
This was no ordinary test. It was a trial of my essence, my
courage, my humanity. I stepped forward. Every movement was deliberate. Every creature that lunged or hissed I met with calm, steady motion. I did not fight aggressively. I evaded, adapted, and endured. Time seemed to stretch, as if the universe itself slowed to watch. Hours, or perhaps minutes, later, I emerged unscathed. Breathless, yes, but unbroken. She approached, her gaze unreadable. Few have walked through that chamber without hesitation. Fewer still have done so without harm. And you emerged intact, yet unharmed. Why? I chose not to be afraid, I said simply. For the first time, I saw emotion ripple across her scales. Something that looked very much like wonder. Remarkable, she whispered, or projected into my mind. Your kind is not merely fragile. You are resilient. You are brave, and perhaps wise. A bond forms from that moment. Our relationship shifted. I was no longer merely a human in her presence. I was a companion, a witness, someone whose perspective intrigued her. She showed me the heart of her civilization, the crystal spires of the capital, alive with energy, the libraries carved from living stone, where knowledge was preserved not in books but in symbiotic organisms, the warriors who trained not for conquest but for mastery of self. And everywhere I went, her subjects looked at me with curiosity, suspicion, and sometimes awe. She asked questions.
Hundreds of them.
About Earth, about humans, about morality, about love, about the strange, unpredictable ways in which we survived. And I answered honestly, with as much humility and knowledge as I could summon. For reasons I still don't fully understand, she listened, not as a queen to a subject, but as a mind-seeking companionship. And then, one evening, as the violet sun of her planet set, casting shadows across the crystal halls, she asked the question again. Human, why aren't you afraid of me? I smiled, a little tired, a little awed, because fear doesn't help anyone. It blinds you. Understanding and courage, those make you stronger. And maybe because I trust you, even though you could destroy me. And maybe because I see that even the strongest can be lonely. Her eyes softened, scales shimmering in the dying light. Lonely, she murmured. Perhaps that is why I have ruled so long, yet never felt complete. Perhaps understanding is what I lacked. I stepped closer, feeling the gravity of the moment. We all need someone to see us for who we really are. Maybe that's why I came here. Maybe that's why you let me. For the first time, she laughed, not the resonating, terrifying laughter of a queen, but a soft, genuine sound, almost human. And then she extended her hand, not in command, but in invitation. The future weeks turned into months. I learned her language, her customs, the subtleties of her mind and heart. And slowly, the alien queen began to trust me, not just as a human, but as a partner of sorts, someone whose courage and insight could challenge and complement her own. We traveled the stars together. She showed me worlds untouched by humans, civilizations forgotten by time, and dangers that would have annihilated an ordinary human in seconds. And through it all, I remained unafraid. Not because I was invincible, but because I had chosen trust, understanding, and courage. The other humans I contacted were shocked. How could I venture into a queen's domain and return alive? How could I walk among her people without fear? How could I speak openly, even lovingly, with the being humanity had feared for centuries? But I had the answer, always the same answer, because I believe fear is a choice. And I choose not to be afraid. When she heard it again, this time in the quiet of her private chambers, her eyes glimmered with something I can only describe as profound respect. And perhaps something more. Then you are truly human, she said softly. And perhaps truly mine. I realized in that instant that the galaxy had not gone mad. It had prepared me for the impossible, for the extraordinary, for a bond that spanned species, worlds, and the boundaries of fear itself. I had stared into the eyes of a queen, the most powerful being I had ever encountered. And she had asked a simple question, "Why aren't you afraid?" And my answer, not defiant, not naive, but true, had changed everything. Because courage, understanding, and trust are stronger than fear, even when staring into the gaze of an alien queen.